This is the last photo I have of my brother Grant. It's July 2012. That's him, his wife Laura, and my nephew Samuel. Grant was obsessed with our family history, and he dragged them to the old family cemetery in Illinois to find our black sheep ancestors' plot. He texted me this photo saying, "Found it. It's not what the story said. Talk later." They never called. Their car was found parked on the service road, but they were just gone. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt that pull of a family mystery you just couldn't let go of, leave a comment below. I'd like to know I'm not the only one. My name is Olivia, and for 12 years, I've been the woman at the party who gets quiet when someone asks if I have siblings. I'm the woman who still keeps a landline just in case. For 12 years, I've been defined by an absence, by a hole in my life shaped exactly like my brother, his wife, and their little boy. That photo, it sits on my mantle. I look at it every day. It's so painfully them. Grant squinting in the sun, that goofy, triumphant grin he always got when he was proving some obscure historical point. Laura, beautiful, rolling her eyes at him, but you can see the love. She's holding an ice cream cone, a little drip of vanilla about to fall. And Samuel, my nephew, he's 8. He has a smear of chocolate on his cheek, holding his own cone like it's the Holy Grail. They are standing on a dusty path under the shade of ancient oak trees. Behind them, out of focus, are the gray, tilting headstones of Vane Cemetery. 12 years is a long time. The sharp, screaming grief of that first year, it's gone. You can't live at that pitch. It's been replaced by something heavier, a dull, constant ache. It's the ambiguity that gets you. Ambiguous loss, my therapist calls it, losing someone without a body, without an answer. It's a story with no last page. Grant was a genealogist. Not as a job, no, he was a high school history teacher, but genealogy was his passion. Our family, the Vanes, were one of the founding families of this little corner of Illinois, pious, hard-working, salt-of-the-earth farmers. And then there was Silas Vane. Silas was the black sheep, born in 1840. The story, the one Grant had been chasing since college, was that Silas rejected the family's puritanical ways, ran off to be a riverboat gambler, and returned 20 years later fabulously wealthy. His family, disgusted by his ill-gotten gains, disowned him. The legend said that when he died, Silas had a secret underground vault built in the family cemetery, and he was buried there with his entire fortune, a curse placed upon it to ward off his greedy relatives. To me, it was a ghost story. To Grant, it was history. He believed Silas had been slandered. He believed the fortune was real, and he wanted to find that crypt too. I don't know. To prove that our family history was more interesting than corn farming. Laura was patient. Lord, she was patient. "He's taking Samuel treasure hunting again," she'd tell me on the phone, laughing. "This time it's cursed Cryptopalooza." But she went along, because she loved him. And Samuel, he just loved an adventure. That day, July 14th, 2012, was supposed to be the day he found it. He'd been cross-referencing old plat maps with family diaries. He was electric with excitement. He texted me the selfie at 2:14 p.m. I texted back, "Fun, looks hot. Don't let Sam get sunburned." At 2:30 p.m., the final text came. "Found it. It's not what the story said. Talk later." That was it. Talk later never came. By 7 p.m., I was calling his phone, straight to voicemail. By 9 p.m., I was calling Laura's, voicemail. By 10 p.m., I called the hotel they were staying at. The front desk clerk said they hadn't returned. At 6 a.m. the next morning, I was in my car driving the 5 hours from Chicago to downstate Illinois, a cold, hard knot of dread in my stomach. I was the one who found their car, a blue Ford Explorer parked on a gravel service road just outside the cemetery's rusty iron gate. It was locked. I called the police. The initial search was a blur. Deputies, search dogs, volunteers. They focused on the river, the Embarrass, about 2 miles east of the cemetery. Fast current this time of year, the grim-faced sheriff told me. People slip, they fall, they're not found for weeks. I refused to believe it. All three of them? With no sign of a struggle? Then the other theory emerged. Ma'am, a young detective said, I looked at their hotel room. Suitcases are still there, but their wallets are gone. Passports are gone. So? I'd snapped. You take your wallet when you go for a walk. Not usually your passport, he said gently. Sometimes families just leave. Start over. Debts. Problems. You'd be surprised. Debts? Grant and Laura? They were teachers. They lived in a modest suburban house. What debts? It made no sense. The case went cold in a week. The dogs lost the scent right at the main road. The river was dragged. Nothing. The whispers started. The local paper ran a story. Family vanishes near cursed crypt. It became a ghost story all over again. But I never left. Not really. I kept my apartment in Chicago, but my life was in that cemetery. I spent weekends, holidays, my summer breaks, walking that 2-acre plot. I got to know the old groundskeeper, a man named Henderson. He thought I was crazy, but he was kind. He'd let me in after hours. Still looking, Ms. Vane? He'd ask, his voice like gravel. Still looking, Mr. Henderson. Nothing here but bones, he'd mutter. And Silas. He was just a story. They buried him in the back plot. No stone, no vault. But I didn't believe him. I had Grant's research. I had his maps. I overlaid them. I measured them. Grant had been onto something. He found it. And whatever he found, it was the key. For 12 years, I mapped every inch of that place. I knew every crack and every headstone. I knew where the ground-penetrating radar survey from the 90s had shown anomalies. I presented my findings to the police. They treated me like a gentle, grieving crackpot. The guilt was the worst part. Why didn't I ask him what he found? Why didn't I call him right after that text? My last words to him were about sunburn. I was sitting in my kitchen, staring at that photo on the mantel, when the phone rang. It was March 12th, 2024. 12 years. Ms. Olivia Vane? Yes. This is Detective Miles, Carmi, Illinois Police. My heart stopped. I sat down. Miles? I didn't know that name. The old sheriff was long retired. Ma'am, we had a weather event here. A derecho. Came through last night, took down a lot of trees, including the giant oak in the northwest corner of the Vane Cemetery. I knew that tree. It was a 200-year-old behemoth. Grant had marked it on his map. Silas's oak. The tree falling, it did something, Ms. Vane. It ripped a hole in the ground. The roots pulled up a structure. You need to come see this. I don't remember the flight. I don't remember the drive from the Evansville airport. I just remember standing at the edge of the cemetery, ducking under yellow police tape. Mr. Henderson was there, looking pale. He just nodded at me. And Detective Miles, a man younger than I was, with kind, tired eyes, pointed. There, he said. The giant oak was on its side, a massive, tangled web of roots pointing at the sky. And where the base of the tree had been was a hole, a perfect black square. Stone steps led down into the earth. Grant was right. He was right all along. My God, I whispered. He found it. It looks like he did, Miles said quietly. We haven't gone down. It's a potential gravesite. As next of kin for the property owners, we wanted you here. My stomach churned. This was it. 12 years of not knowing about to end. I was going to find their bones. I was going to find what was left of Samuel. I gripped the chain-link fence, my knuckles white. Okay, I said, my voice a croak. Let's go. The descent was the longest walk of my life. The air changed immediately. It was cold, still, and smelled of damp earth and mildew. It was a smell I'd never forget. Miles went first, his heavy flashlight cutting a bright white beam. I followed, one hand on the rough stone wall, the other over my mouth. 10 steps down, it opened into a room, not a grand vault, a small brick-lined room, maybe 10 by 10. It was clear it hadn't been built in the 1880s. The bricks were 20th century, but it was old, and in the center of the room, side by side, were 3 coffins. My breath hitched. Grant, Laura, Samuel. Wait, Miles said, putting a hand on my arm. Look. He shined his light on them. They weren't ornate marble sarcophagi. They looked more like old, heavy-duty shipping trunks made of dark wood and bound with black iron straps. And on the front of each one was a padlock. That's not right, I stammered. The legend. This is... Ma'am, Miles said, crouching. These are brand new. Look. He was right. They weren't rusty 19th century locks. They were big, brass, modern padlocks, the kind you buy at Home Depot. My mind was spinning. What did this mean? Did someone trap them in here? This just went from a cold case to... Something else, Miles said. He called up to the officer at the top. Get the bolt cutters. Those few minutes were agony. I stared at the 3 coffins. One was slightly smaller than the other 2. I had to look away. I was going to be sick. The officer returned with the cutters. Okay, Miles said. Let's see what Silas Vane was hiding. He put the cutters on the first lock. The snap of the metal echoed in the tiny room like a gunshot. I jumped. He lifted the heavy lid. The hinges creaked. He shined his light inside. Dust. Nothing but dust. A few rotted planks and the smell of ancient decay. I felt a dizzying wave of relief? Disappointment? I didn't know. Okay, Miles said. One down. He moved to the second, larger coffin. Snap. He lifted the lid. More dust. A rusty buckle. Nothing. Silas Vane, you're a bust, Miles muttered. Then he moved to the third coffin, the smaller one. My heart was in my throat. I couldn't breathe. Please, I whispered, though I didn't know what I was pleading for. Snap. He grunted, lifting the lid. My eyes adjusted to the flashlight beam. It wasn't a body. It wasn't bones. It was a bag, a weatherproof olive green canvas camera bag. My hand flew to my mouth. I knew that bag. I'd bought it for Grant for his 40th birthday. That's his, I choked out. That's my brother's bag. Detective Miles declared the room a crime scene. They photographed everything, documented the locks, the bag, the dust. I was taken to the local police station, a small, clean brick building, and put in a room that smelled like stale coffee and bleach. An interview room. I just sat there, numb, for what felt like hours. Finally, Detective Miles came in. He was wearing blue latex gloves. He placed Grant's bag on the metal table between us. Okay, Ms. Vane, we're going to inventory the contents. I need you to be here for it. I just nodded. He unzipped the main compartment. The sound was deafeningly loud in the quiet room. He reached in and one by one placed the items on the table. Item 1, a Canon digital camera, the one he'd used to take the selfie. The lens cap was on. Item 2, 4, brand new blue United States passports. He opened them, one for Grant, one for Laura, one for Samuel. He paused, opening the 4th. Who is Michael Ashford? He asked. I looked at the photo. A man with a shaved head and a beard I didn't recognize. But the eyes... I squinted. I don't know. He set it aside. Item 3, a thick 9 by 12 manila envelope, sealed. On the front, in my brother's familiar, neat, all-caps handwriting, was one word, Olivia. My hands were shaking so hard I couldn't pick it up. Miles slid it gently across the table. It's addressed to you. I tore the seal. Inside were 20 pages of yellow legal paper filled with Grant's handwriting. At the top of the first page it said, July 14th, 2012, 4:00 p.m., Vane Crypt. He wrote this in there, I whispered. What about the camera? Miles said, his voice soft. He'd plugged it into a charger he'd gotten from an evidence locker, A small red light was on. Let's see what his last photos were. He pressed the on button. The camera whirred to life. The battery was almost dead, but it worked. He clicked to the photo gallery. The first photo was the selfie, the one he'd sent me. He clicked to the next one. It was a photo of the 3 coffins, in the dark, illuminated by the camera's flash. But they were different. The wood was bare, there were no padlocks. They put the locks on after, Miles said, his mind clearly working. He clicked again. Photo 3. A picture of the inside of the smallest coffin, the one we'd found the bag in, but in the photo it was empty, except for a small rotted wooden box. He clicked again. Photo 4. A close-up of the contents of that box. It wasn't gold. It wasn't jewels. It was a tarnished silver locket and a thick leather-bound journal. Silas Vane's diary, I breathed. He found it. Miles clicked one more time. The last photo. It was black, blurry, streaked with light. A photo of the stone steps, as if taken by someone running up them, away from the crypt. And that was it. The camera was empty. Where's the diary? Miles asked. And the locket? He must have taken them, as I said. He wouldn't leave the history. Read the letter, Ms. Vane, Miles said. I think it's time. I unfolded the papers. My voice shook as I began to read. Livy, if you are reading this, it means one of 2 things. Either we made it, and I found a way to get this letter to you, or we didn't, and you found this crypt just like I did. I'm praying it's the first, but I fear it's the second. I found it, Livy. The crypt. It's real. But the legend is a lie. There is no cursed gold. There is no fortune. I looked up at Miles, then back down and continued reading. I found Silas's diary. He wasn't a gambler. He was a spy, an operative for the government after the war. The fortune wasn't his. It was money he was smuggling for. It's complicated. He faked his own death, built this room not as a tomb, but as a safe house, a place to hide. He wasn't buried here. He died in Argentina. The coffins, they were just props. To make his tomb look convincing if anyone ever found it. It's not what the story said. I texted you that. I was standing here in this damp, cold room, and I just laughed. All these years, I was chasing a ghost story, and the truth was, just another story. But Livy, my reason for chasing it, it wasn't just for history. It was for the money. I needed that gold. Livy, I've done something stupid. So stupid. I had to stop. My chest was tight. He was in trouble. I whispered to Miles. Keep reading, he said. I took a breath. I'm a gambler, Livy, not like Silas. Worse, I'm a day trader. I thought I was a genius. I thought I couldn't lose, and I did. I lost everything. Our house, it's in foreclosure. Laura doesn't know. I drained Samuel's college fund. I borrowed money from the wrong people. A man, a loan shark. He's not a knuckles kind of guy, Livy. He's the kind of guy who makes people disappear. I owe him. I owe him over $700,000. He gave me until August 1st. After that, he's not going to just hurt me. He's going to hurt Laura. He's going to hurt Samuel to make an example. When I opened that box and found a diary instead of gold, I broke. I sat on the floor of this crypt and I cried. I was a dead man. I'd failed my family. And then, Laura, my smart, practical Laura, she was looking at the steps. She said, Grant, this place, it's not on any map. It's hidden. It's soundproof. It's the perfect place to hide. And I looked at her, and she looked at me, and we knew. Silas Vane wasn't giving me a fortune. He was giving me a plan. The curse, the vanishing, the river. It's the perfect cover. So this is what we're doing. We're staging our disappearance. We're using my stupid family legend as our alibi. We're going back to the hotel just for a few hours. We're getting our emergency cash. We're coming back here. We're leaving this bag with this letter for you. It's my insurance policy, my confession. I want you to know the truth. I'm locking this bag inside Silas's coffin with new locks. Then we're leaving. We're walking the 15 miles to Charleston. We're taking a bus to Chicago. We're flying out. South. Somewhere. The passports. I've had them for months. A plan B I never thought I'd use. Grant Vane is going to die today, but Michael Ashford is going to be born. Laura will be Sarah. Samuel will be Samuel. He's just a kid. He'll be okay. Livy, this is the hardest part. If you're reading this, it's because you found it. You're the only one who ever would. You're the only one smart enough to follow my research. I'm hoping you find this years from now. I'm hoping it's after you get a postcard from Argentina, from Michael. But if you're finding this and you haven't heard from me, please, don't look for us. Don't. It will put us in danger. It will put you in danger. The man I owe, his reach is long. Just know, we are alive. We are safe. I saved them, Livy. I finally did something right. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to do this to you, to put you through this. But I have to save my family. Please be happy. Know that we are somewhere. Goodbye. Grant. I finished reading. The room was silent. I looked up at Detective Miles. His face was pale. He did it, Miles said, breaking the silence. He actually pulled it off. I just stared at the letter. My brother, my mild-mannered history nerd brother, had staged a massive, elaborate disappearance to escape a loan shark. He wasn't dead. He wasn't at the bottom of a river. He was alive. The tears that came, they weren't the tears of grief I had known for 12 years. They were something else. Relief, anger, a profound, hollow, new sadness. He's alive, I whispered. It seems so, Miles said. He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. Well, this complicates things. What? What do we do? He looked at me, his eyes full of a sudden, deep understanding. Ms. Vane, he said slowly. Officially, this is still a missing persons case. We have no bodies. We have a letter, which could be a confession, or it could be a forced confession planted by a killer. We don't know. I looked at him confused. We don't know, he repeated, that Michael Ashford isn't just a name. We have no proof Grant Vane became him. This camera, these passports, they were found in a bag in a crypt. They're circumstantial. He was giving me an out. He was telling me the case was closed. In his mind, anyway. The letter, he said, gesturing to the yellow pages in my hand. It's addressed to you. It's personal correspondence. It's not evidence of a crime. Not really. Not without a body. He stood up. I have to file a report that a storm caused a sinkhole, that an old, empty family crypt was discovered, that the site was inconclusive. As for this bag, he pushed it and all its contents across the table to me. I think it belongs to you. I flew home that night. The bag was in the overhead bin. The letter and the passports were in my purse, pressed against my chest. I got to my apartment, I walked to the mantel, and I picked up the selfie. Grant, Laura, Samuel. All this time I had been mourning their deaths. I had imagined the most horrific, violent ends for them. I had pictured them cold and lost, and all this time they were alive. I had to mourn them all over again. But this time it was the loss of the living. I had lost my brother, not to death, but to life. He had chosen his family's future over our shared past. He had given up his name, his history, his own sister, to save his wife and son. He'd asked me not to look. He'd begged me. To look for them would be to betray him. To look for them would be to put them in danger. My search was over. I finally had an answer. It wasn't the one I wanted. It wasn't the happy reunion, the tearful embrace. It was a quiet, permanent goodbye. I sat on my sofa, holding the letter, and I cried for the brother who was still out there living a new life under a new name. A few days later, a thought occurred to me. The loan shark. Grant had been so terrified. I'd been so focused on Grant, I'd forgotten the threat. Were they really safe? My fingers trembled as I opened my laptop. Grant had only called him the man in the letter, but in his financial notes, which I'd poured over a decade ago, one name had appeared, a shell corporation. I typed it in. It led me to a man's name and to a series of news articles. He had been arrested in 2015, not for what he did to Grant, for racketeering, for tax evasion, the boring white-collar crimes that finally take men like that down. He was in a federal supermax prison. He wouldn't be getting out. Ever. I closed the laptop. A smile, a real, true, painful, relieved smile, spread across my face. They were safe. They were truly safe. Grant had won. He'd saved his family. I picked up the 2012 selfie, and next to it I placed the passport photo of Michael Ashford, my brother. "Be happy, Grant," I whispered, "wherever you are." My story was over. Theirs was just beginning. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have respected his wish and stopped looking? Subscribe if you believe every truth, no matter how hidden, eventually surfaces.